you guys can hear me. I am the CEO owner of Solutions. And what I do is
Kayla,
one
one second.
second.
You are sounding like a
Sorry,
advertiser. My name is
my
Kayla. Now,
name is.
this.
Second. Let me know if this is better.
No. Keep talking.
No, it's the same.
Better now.
Okay, it's better
Good.
now. Okay,
Absolutely.
so let me 1 second. We make sure we're streaming live as well. Well, we are live. We make sure they can hear me.
Right.
Let me see here. Definitely are live. Oh, okay, I sound good. Let me cut this down. All right, I'll reiterate that again. Good evening, good evening, my people. My name is Kayla Joshua. I am the owner-operator of CEO of Knowledge Solutions. And what I do is teach people how to make 100K in 90 days using my Power program. And tonight, the topic of the matter is, what do we do and how do we save for retirement? There's a myth, okay, that millennials won't have anything left over for retirement. So I wanted to bring in a special guest, matter of fact, an expert on retirement tonight, and that is Mr. Marcel Kennedy. He's going to go ahead and introduce himself because I don't want to take his shine. He's going to explain what he does, what his company does, and definitely you do want to stay tuned to get this information. Mr. Kennedy, you go ahead and introduce yourself as.
All right. Can you guys hear me loud and clear? Kayla. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Anybody? You guys can hear me? Can you guys hear me? Hello? Hello? Kayla, can you hear me? Hey, can anybody hear me? May put in the
Yes,
chat?
I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
Yes,
so
I can.
I kind of lost you for a second, but I guess you can hear me. Okay, all right. Welcome everyone. My name is Marcel Kennedy. Before I get started and share my background, I want to give a big thank you for Kayla for having me join the live tonight. And everyone that's on this live, I definitely appreciate it. They say if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, build a team and go together. Okay, my name is Marcel Kennedy. I'm a retirement specialist with 30 years in the financial industry. I've got my start at trading American Stock Exchange in Wall Street in New York. And over time, I pivoted into the insurance world. And I tell you, had I known what I know now, I would have gotten to this insurance game and this retirement game a lot sooner. So after decades of working in the financial section and working with many of my clients, I mean, all kind of walk of life, right? Whether you're a mounted entrepreneur, carving out your own path, a government worker, or just starting to build a nest egg, or even a seasoned employee looking to maximize their benefits. It may be someone that just came into a windfall of money, so a financial blessing, whether it be a lottery win or simply being a disciplined saver. And I say that again, a disciplined saver. Now, I've seen firsthand how crucial it is to build a retirement strategic strategy that truly works for your life, your dreams, and your legacy. Now, I'm here to break down, I think she said it earlier, right? The myths, simplify the industry jargon, and make it not complicated, but turn it into a conversation that we all can understand and be confident about. So you can drop your questions in the chat. Let's try to park those questions for later on because I know during the process, I'm definitely going to answer a lot of those questions throughout the process. But if there's something that's present you want to ask, definitely tap in or hit the chat, right? So before we get started, if you guys can tune in and just let me know where you're from, who's on live with us. So I'm from Brooklyn, so I'm gonna say right now, I'm from Brooklyn. Anyone from New York, from Brooklyn, New York, Jersey, the tri-state, definitely give a shout out. Okay. So I'm gonna kick right into the game right now. Okay. So retirement is what I say. It's not a one size fit all. I want you to think of it as like a four-legged stool. Each leg support the future. And now today we're going to focus on one of those legs, and that legs is the big question: Social Security. Social Security, is it going to run out? Will it even be here when I retire? So I'm going to break that concept down for you real easy, so that way you understand there's the Social Security benefits that's available to you guys as well. Now, uh, they ask, where is Social Security going to be in the next 5 to 10 years, right? And how does it work? Now, this topic is a lot of questions that people is going to ask, because this is the conversation that keeps a lot of folks that's going towards retirement, keep them up at night. So, Social Security, the question is Social Security going to run out? Let's get straight to it. Social Security is not disappearing. Let me say that again. Social Security is not disappearing. It's facing a financial strain. Congress will definitely have to make some type of adjustments on either on taxes, changes on the retirement age. When I say change the retirement age, let's say 62, 65, 70, and so forth, they're going to have to make that adjustment in order for Social Security to keep the balance. There's a saying: Peter pays for Paul, and Paul pays for them all. What that means is that there's a lot of folks that's still in the working field, that's still coming up in retirement, then their kids and their kids and kids, so forth. So Social Security is not going to be running out. At least they haven't had that conversation. They are having conversation of how they can pivot, but not running out. Okay, so I'm gonna get to the bottom of it now. Another question is Social Security taxed, and at what rate? Yes, Social Security is taxed. Now, let me say this. If you have a 401k, 403b, or a TSP, that's another form of income. So Uncle Sam is going to tax your social because you're bringing in X amount of money. Now, if you didn't have any type of retirement, right, and you're just getting a small Social Security check, then more than likely about a percentage of that will not be taxed. So you understand that part, right? If you have a 401k, 403b, TSP, right? 401k is that, I would say that's the private sector, right? The 403b, that's someone that's in another sector. And then you also have a TSP, which is called a thrift savings plan. Okay. Um, if you're single and your combined income is over $25,000, or if married jointly, it's $32,000. That's what your tax will be taxed at. The tax rate is usually the same federal income tax that you pay on your portion. Now, another question is, folks will ask, well, how is Social Security benefit calculated? Well, Social Security Administration looks at your, now hear me out, at your 35 highest earning years. Get it? At your 35 highest earning years. They adjusted that by inflation. They adjusted depending on your age and decide what your benefits and your claims will be. If you take your money early, it's going to be reduced. If you do full retirement, which is 66 to 67, it'll be standard. If you delay to 70, it'll boost up. Now, I want to touch on this part right here real fast, right? So when you think of, should I take my Social Security? You got to think about your health, life expectancy, your financial situations, and your personal needs for cash flow. Let me break that down for a second. Now, if you are 62 and you're not in the best health, right? Don't wait until 70 to take your Social Security. Because if you take your Social Security at 70 and you pass away at 71, you only be able to get 1 year of Social Security. If you take it at 62, then now you've got about 8 years or 9 years of earning your Social Security. So you made that money, kind of not made the money back, but you kind of got some of the money that you put back into it. All right. Life expectancy. God forbid if you were to die, be diagnosed with cancer, heart attack, stroke, kidney failure, some form of critical or terminal illness, right? That's your life expectancy. There might be a chance that you can pass away in the near future. I recommend taking your Social Security early. Financial situation, right, would be if that's the only thing that you have, Social Security, right? You have no other form of income that's coming in, and you need that money to supplement your income, and you may have a small job that's maybe a part time, you only can do X amount of hours. Uncle Sam would allow you to go ahead and work and only accumulate certain amount of hours, and they'll give you whatever Social Security benefits is available to you. And then again, your personal needs, which is your cash flow. If you don't have enough savings, money market, CDs, and none of that stuff, then go ahead and take your Social Security. Another question is, if I pass away, what happens to my Social Security? Okay, so your own retirement benefits, remember this, your benefits stops at death. When you pass away, your Social Security stops. However, if there's a survivor benefit, you support your wife or your husband, then that spouse can get up to 100% of your benefit if they claim at the full age at 70. Okay, remember that. So a widow or widow, including spouse who is married. So let me touch on this one here. So people always ask, well, I got married, I was with my wife for a period of time, let's say 10, 15 years. We separated, but I pass on. She was entitled to my Social Security, but now I'm married. So is it my wife entitled to my Social Security, my new wife entitled? So the government says, if you are married, let me read it verbatim, okay? So if you are married, right, including divorced spouse who are married to at least 10 years, depending on the age and their circumstances. Now, let me add this part to this question. Oftentimes goes unanswered, right? The new wife will get a portion, and the ex-wife will get a portion of the Social Security as well. Now, if the ex-wife marries before age 60, right, then she wouldn't. Okay. If she's disabled before the age of 50, then she will get it. Okay. Also, your minor children, 75% of that, if they're under the age of 18 or 19, if they're still in high school, or if they're disabled, remember that, if they're disabled before age of 22, then they'll get up to 75% of your benefits. Okay. Your dependent parents. So let's say you got mom and dad that's um, codependent or dependent on your support. They now, in return, will get up to 80%, right? So we need to understand that, right? So your parents, if you're taking care of them or helping them out, and it's half of their income or their support, then they'll be able to get at least 80% of that. Now, another thing does is ask, do survivors have to apply for the benefits? And the answer is yes. You have to apply for the benefits because it's not automatic, right? Uh, Social Security is not picking up the phone and they're not calling you. So more importantly, as long as you have the death benefit, the death certificate, right? The the Social Security office will go ahead and set that up for you. Okay. So ideally, as soon as possible as you can, provide the death certificate. That way you can go ahead and get what your loved ones have left to you. Also, this is a question here that a lot of people will sit and say, hey, my parents had Social Security and they've got life insurance through Social Security. Let me take that myth out the way. That answer is incorrect. If you're codependent on that Social Security benefit that when your family or member passes away that you're going to get, let me break it down for you right now. It's a one-time payment of $255 for the surviving spouse or eligible child. Okay. Now, we're going to kind of open up. I spoke about some of the major questions. If anyone has any additional questions they would like to ask, of course, I'll answer any questions. But I think those are like the most questions that people ask that keep them up at night. And I want to make sure that you guys get those questions answered.
All right, I do have a couple of questions that I've seen in the chat. So they first of all, I seen they said that they did not know that in order to determine your Social Security benefit, they take the 35 highest earning years. So I think that was some great information. A lot of people weren't aware of. Then another one I seen, I was trying to write them down.
Okay.
So they said, do you have to wait until 70? What was it? I think it was an example you were stating where, say, for instance, the spouse passed away, and in order for them to claim the spouse's benefits, they were asking, do you have to wait until you're 70, or can you claim the spouse's benefits as soon as the person passes away?
No, so you want to be able to file right away, right? Because you don't want to delay, right? You want to make sure that you're able to get that going immediately. But the spouse, which is as at 70, they'll get 70%, which is at the full age, that's age 70. But they can start drawing at age 60.
Okay, so they can start drawing at age 60.
Yes.
Okay, all right. And then let me see what else they had here. Before 60, disabled. All right, you stated something about them being able to draw off their spouse if they are disabled, if they're after the age of 50. They said, do you have to be 50 if your spouse passes away prior to you being 50 years old?
Okay, repeat that
So,
question.
like, say for instance, you're married and your spouse passes away
Uh-huh.
and you're 49 years old. Can you draw from your spouse's Social Security earnings that they made prior to the age of 50 years old
Yeah. So if
if they're
if
disabled?
if they're disabled, so no, if they're disabled, it has to be 50.
It has to be 50.
Yeah.
Okay. And if they're not disabled,
If they're not disabled, then they've got to wait until at 50.
six. Okay. They got to wait until they're 50. Okay. And then let me see what else they had
Because
here.
how old is the spouse? Is the
Um,
spouse in is the
they didn't
spouse
say
is the spouse at the age of receiving Social
retirement.
Security?
We're going to say hypothetically speaking, yes,
Okay, yeah, then they can draw it at
at
any given
any time.
time. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
If there's no Social
Um,
Security benefits available at that time, then they'll have to wait.
wait
If
until the
if they're
spouse would have
younger,
been.
yeah, if they're
Uh-huh.
younger, they're 18, 19, they're still in school and so forth, then the siblings, I mean, the children will get the Social Security, can draw the Social Security benefit. But the spouse
Okay.
wouldn't be able to get anything until that time.
All right. And the last question that I had seen was you had stated that if the person's parents were dependent upon them and that person passed away and they were receiving Social Security, how would they show proof that the parents were their dependents?
Well, that's simple, right? So you got, how do you get access to the death certificate? You have to have access to the death certificate, right? So whether it be the spouse with the children, is giving grandparents the ability to draw as well too. Yeah. So
Okay.
if it's a combination of, let's say the kids are still young, they're still there's a surviving spouse, and then
Hmm.
there's a code of dependent parents. You could actually get up to anywhere from 150 to about almost 200% of
Hmm.
your the deceased Social Security. So it's
Okay.
called max, right? So that's the
Mhm.
max they'll give for everyone throughout the family. So if everyone is codependent on my income.
Okay, all right, perfect. And then I want to kind of double back and touch back on the whole retirement option for millennials. So when I was doing some research, of course, it stated, try to match out your 401k if you're a W-2 employee as much as possible, especially if your job offers 50-50. Diversification of your investments is another option as well, contributing to a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. What would you suggest are some alternatives to making sure that a person, even though we said from you stated from the beginning of the phone call that Social Security running out is a myth, and that is actually true. I was able to verify that information as well. What would you suggest to somebody who's worried about how much they'll receive for retirement so they can start saving right now?
So great question, right? So one of the things that I try to do, I said it earlier with the four-legged stool, right? So Social Security is only one leg, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you also want to be able to say, you made mention of your 401k, 4B, 403B, or TSB. So oftentimes what happens, e- employer A, employee work for the company. The company says we're going to give 5% as a match, right? Oftentimes someone misleads them and tell them, hey, you can put up to 10%, right? What I tell my clients is that you do not put more than 10%, more than 5%. Whatever the company is matching, you want to stay with inside that match. The reason why
Okay.
that 3 or 4 or 5%, that's playing the wolves of Wall Street, meaning that you're giving away, you're putting money out there to play whatever the stock options or whatever roller coaster it goes through. So that's first thing I would say, keep the match. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not investing in your 401k, then you might as well stand on the boulevard and open your car window and just throw money out the window, right? Because I can guarantee you, not too sure how many folks is on live with us right now, but I'll ask you,
Mm-hmm.
role play advocate here, when you get paid, this is your check. Your check is $1,000. You just got paid.
Okay.
Who gets paid first?
Shoot, government get paid first.
Okay, all right. That's a myth. I mean, that's not a myth. That's totally wrong. See?
Okay.
Right? The first person gets paid is your 401k. You pay yourself. It's called a deferred comp,
Mm-hmm.
right? So let's say you put away $100. Uncle Sam could only tax you on the
On the
900.
900, right,
That
which is the
right,
remaining balance.
right.
Correct.
So that 100 that's left, right? That's called a deferred comp, right? So that money's being deferred until you decide to retire.
Correct. And
Okay,
be taxed on it.
and then you'll be taxed later on it. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely invest in your 401k, right? Second leg is life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes what happens, people will work for ABC company and they're like, I got life insurance for my job. Okay, so let me just
Worst
break that down
mistake
to you.
ever.
Right. Where's the worst thing ever, right? So no, let me say the worst. Let me say not say the worst. It's a great thing. The reason why,
Mm-hmm.
because you can actually maximize as much as you can, right? Which is called group group life insurance. So the employer says, we're going to give you one time your annual salary, or some companies will give you 10,000 or 15,000 of their life insurance if you die, but you have to
Mm-hmm.
die working for the company. It's
Correct.
not something that you can take. Some companies have supplemental life insurance, meaning that a carrier is coming in and having this conversation with you doing open enrollment, and then you're buying a supplemental policy, right? But more importantly, you've got this policy here from the job. So life insurance is one of the most important thing. Nobody thinks about it because if you go to work, you don't make it back home. Now your family's got 200,000, 300,000 coming to them, right? So your 401k, your life insurance, right? And then you also want to have some type of nest egg, like 2 or 3 or 4 times your rent or your mortgage in a high yield, right? In a
Mm-hmm.
high yield interest account, not a regular savings, not a regular checking, but the bank says, hey, if you put X amount of money on a monthly basis in this account, we're gonna pay you not the pennies in the dollar, but we're gonna pay you this on it. So now you have that spinning for you. And then you've got your social security and then whatever other investments, any little stocks, any bonds, any other little things that you may have. Now you've got a four-legged stool. You not become a Walmart greeter. Nothing wrong with a Walmart greeters, but I'm just saying you don't have to go back to work because the purpose
Correct.
of working today is not to work tomorrow. It's to enjoy
Correct.
and play. That's the goal.
All right. And then just to clarify to the viewers, so what are those four legs in that stool?
Okay, so it's your 401k or 403bs or your
Mm-hmm.
TSPs or your
Mm-hmm.
any type of defer comp that the employer offers, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
know that you and I had this conversation, and I think yours on the West Coast, and it was called
Correct. PERS, Public Employee Retirement System.
right. There you go. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have life insurance. Now, more
Mm-hmm.
importantly, you want to be able to have life insurance not only with the employer, but you want to
Mm-hmm.
have it outside, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
God forbid if something was happening to you, cancer, heart attack, stroke, kidney failure, you've got a policy that's structured the right way. Not just getting a policy to say, well, I've got insurance. No, you want
You
to
know, a
know.
lot of people don't know too that that group insurance, they get it at a way better rate because it's a whole bunch of people in that one, policy.
Absolutely.
So that's why they're able to get it at such a great rate. So you
Right.
said 401k or 403b, life insurance.
And then some type of super savings or a high yield interest account. Right. You can put
Okay.
money into money market account. You can have some stocks if you like, but you have to understand, right? When you start doing like anything outside of a safety net, your
Mm-hmm.
401k is already playing the market, is doing this,
Correct.
right? So when a financial advisor or someone else tells you, hey, put money into this vehicle over here, and that vehicle is a roller coaster as well. So you've got two roller coaster, winning and losing, winning and losing. So I would recommend putting your vehicle into something a lot safer, something that's going to be able to upside gain, downside protection, so that way your asset or your investment doesn't get depleted throughout the count through the years or of you working.
Okay. So would you suggest just the high yield savings or also because we both know, well, we know, you might want to explain it to the people that there are certain life insurance policies that kind of do both. It's a high yield savings account and it has a bucket that goes into life insurance as well. If they can afford to get an insurance that way, would you suggest that and how much would you suggest that they, able to pay each month based
Okay,
off their
so
income?
so with life insurance, it all depends how it's structured, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
do an IUL, right, and
Mm-hmm.
illustrate it for 20 years. Use an example. You're 30. At 50, you don't have to make any more payments to that policy. Most people will ask, how is that? Because most insurance person, they're not really illustrating it that way. They're going all the way out. You illustrate it to
Right.
the 20 years. Now, after 20 years, you stop making payments on it. Now it becomes a cash cow for you, right? All it's doing is setting up to make, when it comes to retirement now, you can now do the reverse. It's called increase in death benefit in the first 20 years, and then you level it out, restructure it to level it out without making any payments for the next 20 years, right? So now at, let's say at age 65, use an example, let's say 65, you can now, you retire, now you can start taking income from that. Let's say you're taking out $15,000 out of this policy over another 20-year period. The policy is still good, right? But you've put in, let's, let me use an example, $100, right? I'm using an example, $100.
Mhm.
You've got a 21-year, we're talking millennials right now, right? So you've got a 21-year-old, right? So now he's 41, right? He only put in $24,000 into this policy over that 20-year period. Now, and 20 years later, the policy is still good. Nothing is wrong with it. It's still, they're still growing. The cash value is still growing. Now he does what is called turn the money on. Now at 60, he decides, you know what, 65, he decides, you know what, I'm going to start taking income from this policy for the next 20 years. He So the next 20 years, that's 14,000 or so. He's probably took it out over $250,000 out of this policy. But you got to remember, he only put in 24,000. And
Right.
and over the 20-year period, he still has about 60 to $70,000 left in the life insurance. So let me
All
break this
right.
down real fast, right? I want to.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the times, I can't speak to the viewers, but I'll maybe ask the viewers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you bought a life insurance policy and you've got $100,000 of death benefit, and then through the years that you've had this policy, you've decided I want to take out $10,000. Okay, but once you take it out and you die, what happens? Most people feel like, well, I've got $10,000 in cash value. I took it out, but you have to understand, cash value, I promise you, cash value is coming from the death benefit. So you only
Correct.
have $90,000 going towards your
Left
family.
and right. Left and
Right,
death benefit.
right. So when you
Mm-hmm.
hear a lot of these guys that's on the gram and so forth, they're talking about putting X amount of money in cash value and taking all this amount of money out, which is not true, right? It's not true. It's
Right.
Uncle Sam has what is called a MEC. It's called a modified endowment contract on every life
Mm-hmm.
insurance policy. Back in the days, 1800s and so forth, back in the days, right? You could have taken $1 million today, dump it into the life insurance policy, and take it out $1 million tax free. Uncle Sam
Mm.
one day woke up and said, whoa, We're not
Right. We're
doing
not
that.
getting our cut.
Yeah, right. We're not getting. It's bad enough when that person died. We don't get nothing out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're gonna give y'all $1 million and you draw it back out of tax free. So what you're doing, what they were doing, they were washing their money. So
Mm-hmm.
they had their money in other investments and so forth, and they dump into the life insurance and took it right back out tax free. So now Uncle Sam gets nothing. So now it's called a MEC, modified endowment contract.
All right, perfect. You know what? So basically, from what I hear you stating is that if you do plan on getting into a vehicle, I should say per se for life insurance purposes, or either to grow your money, you need to find out or structure correctly. You need to ask the insurance agent. I want to focus more so on the life insurance side, or I want to focus more so on the money side because I want it to grow at a substantial rate. So you need to speak to somebody who's very knowledgeable in this subject so it can be structured correctly, because you do want to be in a position like you gave for an example. You pay for 20 years and you're not paying anything at all, but yet your money still continues to grow.
Right. Yeah. So because your IUL is played by the S&P, right, which is the Standard
Mm-hmm.
and Poor. S&P 500 is the Standard and Poor. It doesn't really play the market really.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of follows it a little bit to see the trend, right? So your upside, your downside protection, meaning that your money is still protected. So during those
Right.
years you're paying into the policy, some are going towards the life insurance and some going towards the cash value, and then the cost of
Yes.
insurance. All right, but your money's making. So during the calendar year, let's say $100 policy, and you illustrate the right way or structure the right way. Uncle Sam says you can put a maximum of $4,000 into this policy every year. So if you wanted to save money besides a high yield interest account or someplace else, you can say, you know what, I'm going to park my money over here in the life insurance, and I know I'm going to be getting back more than the banks will give me. So I'm going to put this money. So I'm killing two, three birds with one stone, right?
One
I've got
stone.
a,
Mm-hmm.
I've got a death benefit. If I die, my family gets that.
Right.
I also got a living benefit, right? God forbid if
Mm-hmm.
I was cancer, heart attack, stroke, some form of critical term, I got money can come to me, right? I've also got an account where it's like a savings that I can borrow from. And the more importantly is, who are you borrowing from? Yourself. If you borrow from the
Mm-hmm.
bank, you've got to pay that back or it's going to affect your credit, right?
Correct.
If you don't pay it back, right, that doesn't matter. It's
Nothing
okay
happens.
because
Yeah.
nothing
Uh-huh.
happens. It just takes off of the death benefit for your loved ones. And then
Correct.
you have an income at the end of retirement. You've got your Social Security, your pension or your 401k, and then you also got this life insurance is giving you can pay you 15,000 a year. You know, that's even if it's $1,000 a month, right? That's still added to what your income is. So that could be your mini vacation every year. So every year I'm gonna go on
Right.
vacation, right?
What do you because I have read that it said mostly women of color, I mean women, excuse me, and people of color are at the most risk of not having enough money left for retirement. And then I know as a professional in this matter, you've come across a lot of people who say, "Hey, I need life insurance." Or, "Hey, I need to save, I need to save." You go over, you do a needs analysis, and you see that, okay, this is how much you need because your mortgage is this, your children are going to college, this is how much debt you have for credit card debt. So you need at least $800,000 policy. Um, and so this is going to be X amount of money. And they say, well, I can't afford that. What options do you give them? Or what do you tell them in that situation and circumstances?
You can't afford not to have it, right? So oftentimes when you hear that conversation to say, hey, I can't afford life insurance because this is another bill, right? And when you do the need analysis, you kind of breaking it down. They're bringing on $5,000 a month, and they pushing out almost over $4,500 a month, and they left $500 left, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I do, I start breaking it down into increments, and I ask them, "What's the first thing you need to pay?" 9 out of 10 times they say, "Well, I need to pay
I say they
my
mortgage,
mortgage."
they rent,
Okay,
right?
absolutely. What's the second thing you need to pay?
Utilities,
Okay, all
car
right. So
insurance.
all right, so let's stop for a second. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, not to get biblical, but they say pay yourself, right?
Right, 10%.
10%, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you tell yourself, okay, my where I live, I got a shelter over my head that's taken care of, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put life insurance on a second component. I'm gonna tell you why. Because if you put life insurance before everything else and don't have it, right? And if you're diagnosed with cancer, heart attack, stroke, or you got a stroke right now, 9 out of 10
Mhm.
times you'll be out of work, whether you decide to go back to work or not go back to work. You'll be out of work for 6 months, 2 years, or maybe never ever going back to work based on your severity of your critical illness. So here what happens now. You're depleting, you're checking your savings, your credit cards, and so forth, trying to live because you're out of work. Yes, even if you got short-term, long-term disability, it's going to give you a percentage of your check,
Yeah, not
right?
enough. About
So,
70%.
right. So when you look at that and you say, I can't afford it, I say you can't afford not to have
Can
it,
afford not to
right?
have it.
Right, because
Absolutely.
that's gonna protect your umbrella. So if you got a $200,000 life insurance policy or an $800,000 policy, it's gonna go ahead and what help keep the roof over your head, and now you
Hmm.
ain't got to deplete all of your 401k or all your checking and savings account because this money's gonna come to you. 85% of that money can come to you if the policy is structured the right way. Now, again, I keep saying that word. You've got to be able to deal with an insurance person that's
Knows
understand
what they're
this
doing.
game here. If they don't
Hmm.
understand, they're gonna sell you anything, right? And when they sell you anything, that road, like I say, any road could take you anywhere. Because at the end of the day, it's about a commission or just a
A
sale
check
for
for
that
them.
individual.
Yes. Right.
There's I
Absolutely.
people that I know, like, and trust. I know you, okay. I may do business. I like you. There's a possibility, but if I can trust you, right, to
Hmm.
have you in my best interest, oh, absolutely, right. That's what you need. You could talk to Pookie, Lukey, and all of them trying to get you a policy, but the bottom line is it has to be structured the right way. If it's structured the right way, then you'll be able to say, you know what, I'm relaxed. So I would say, pay your mortgage, pay yourself, which is your life insurance, right, and everything else.
Hmm.
Remember, your utility bills doesn't matter because you can shift that around on a month-to-month basis, right?
Hmm.
You could say, okay, my monthly bill, my light bill is $200. Okay, I can send them $100,
Right.
right? Why not take that $100 and put it towards your life insurance, right?
Hmm.
Because later on you can borrow from it because it's building cash value for it. One, if you pass away, something happens, at least you got that coverage. Most people will say, well, I have mortgage protection. Okay, I'm going to answer this question because I love it, right? So I'm going to speak on this real fast.
Hmm.
Mortgage protection. If you have a house, the house is 300,000. I'm going to use an example,
Hmm.
right? And then you've lived in this house for 10 years, you paid off for $100,000 off of this house, right? You've got mortgage protection. What is the mortgage protection company going to cut you a check for?
It's gonna be off of whatever the current value is, I'm assuming.
No, no.
So how do they determine how much they pay you?
They so what it is, right? So what they do is mortgage protection. You see, the bank cares about the mortgage, right?
Hmm.
So the mortgage protection company cares about the mortgage. What's the balance? So
Hmm.
if you owe 200, they're gonna pay off the mortgage. If the balance is $200 left, 200,000 left. So
They're
let's
not gonna
fast
give you the
forward.
value of what it's actually worth.
Right,
Okay.
right. So let's fast forward. You've only got a year left. You've got $10,000 left to pay this
That's
mortgage
all they're
off.
gonna pay.
That's all they're gonna pay.
Mm-mm-mm.
Right. So I say you're paying this mortgage protection, right? Why not restructure it? And when you buy the house, say, listen, look, I've got a $500,000 life insurance, and I put my life insurance under the umbrella, right, to protect my mortgage. So if
Hmm.
I die, I've got X, Y, and Z,
Enough to cover the
enough to
mortgage.
cover the mortgage and more.
And that's why they need to do needs analysis to see how much money
Always,
that they actually need coverage for.
always.
So how do you feel about when people say, "Well, I don't need a IUL. I have a IRA. I have a traditional IRA, or I have a Roth IRA, and that's why I'm dumping my $7,000 a year into in order to save for my retirement."
Okay, so you put $7,000 for the year,
Max. Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. If you could afford to put away $7,000, I applaud you, right? What if I always go back to this? What if you got sick and you can't
No
work?
living benefit.
Remember, so all you're gonna get is that 7,000 plus whatever interest that money made.
Mm-hmm.
Think, people. I was up like stop and think for a second, right? I'm giving you $7,000 and I'm only getting maybe 8,000, maybe less than that in a year period. I bought a life insurance policy. Yeah, it cost me 300 or whatever it may cost me, but I got almost $1 million,
Hmm.
right? Think. My family now got $1 million. But if it's structured properly, I didn't die, right? I was diagnosed with something, but now I can't go back to work for whatever reason. The insurance
Mm-hmm.
company is going to accelerate 85% of that money. So
To
small
you.
numbers, a
Yes.
100,000, you got $85,000 coming to you.
Yes. And
What do
I
I?
don't think a lot of people know too, you can get a living benefits with a term. I think they feel like you have to have an IUL in order
No,
to get those living benefits because
no.
that's how a lot of people on social media, project it and things of that nature.
And I say this, right? Stop listening to social media. Social media is for
Right.
entertainment, right?
Right.
That's what it is. It's
Entertainment
the internet
purposes.
entertains foolishness because what happens is that somebody's gonna talk, 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 and then all the flash and all the glimmer and all the lights, and then you're like, oh my God, this sounds good. I'm gonna go with this guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But check his DNA, right? You can put
Yes.
my DNA up, right? And you will see that I'm licensed. I'm licensed in most states, right? So when you think about it, you want to deal with somebody, not somebody that read a book real fast and decide, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make sure that I talk to people and I'm gonna get X amount of followers. No, because he's probably piggybacking off of somebody that he knows, right? That
Mm-hmm.
isn't in life insurance, and what they're doing is just basically just throwing you over there and getting you uh, insured, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't structured properly. So when you're looking at in that concept there, don't do it.
Right. So basically, like you said, know your numbers. That's the main thing. Know how much money you need to survive off. So when you do reach age of retirement, you'll be able to be good. You're not trying to figure out how you can rob Peter to pay Paul. I know personally, I've seen it for myself. I worked for the state of Nevada for years, and I have people come in as soon as they retire. They're like, okay, I want food stamps, or I want you guys to be able to pay a portion of my Medicare Part B premium. And because of how much their income is, and it's not a high income. If you look at the government stats, you don't have to make, you may not make, but get a lot of Social Security to be disqualified for these programs.
Right,
You get over $1,300, they're like, you have to pay your own Part B premium. That's 180 coming out of your check. Your check is
right.
only $1,100.
There you go.
So now, how are you going to pay your rent? How are you going to pay your utilities? How are you going to buy food? Because they're only going to give you $16 in food stamps.
Right.
How are you going to do that? Because based off solely your social security income, because you didn't plan for the future and you're banking, like you said, on that one leg, that one stool of income, when you should have diversified and have multiple sources or multiple ways to be able to bring in that income. So I think that was very, very powerful
Yeah, most
information that a
people.
lot of people don't know.
Yeah, most people don't plan to fail. They plan
Hmm.
to fail ahead, right? Because they're thinking now, right? So you ask that question like, if I go into your closet, how many Gucci, Louis, Fendi, and all this other stuff that's in the closet, right? How many times you go to Ross, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, right? And then you gotta go in there, you gotta pick something up. But meanwhile, you say you don't have the money, right? But every
Mm,
weekend you're turned up. Friday, Saturday, and
right.
Sunday, you're in the club
It's four
paying.
hundred dollars for one bottle.
Right, right.
One
So
bottle, $400.
I tell people all the time, like when we do a news analysis, I break down what they're bringing in and what's going out. So if they've got
Yeah.
$500 left, and I ask them, I say, okay, let's take a piece of this. Even if you started at 50 or $100, right? You're putting away this $100 towards to make sure that your the goals and legacy that you want to leave, because that's what they say. I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave a this, that. And I say,
Right.
honestly, spell legacy for me, right? Because
Right.
if you can't spell it, then there's a problem because spelling it isn't verbally, but spelling that's on paper, showing what's put
Mhm.
together. I've got a living trust. I've got this thing structured, that thing structured. That's the legacy. I think you and I had this conversation the other day, and we talked about so many of us are looking for the 40 acres and a mule. There's not enough mule, and there's not enough
Mhm.
40 acres to give, right?
Right, to
So
everybody.
stop
Mhm.
codependent on somebody else to change the narrative or the trajectory of your future, your kids and your grandkids. Set it up today so that way later on they become a trust fund baby. So just imagine you pass away 10, 20, 30 years and your kids and your grandkids are still getting this trust money every year for their birthday or
Mm.
Christmas. That's that's
And
what
that's
that's wealth.
crazy because I've never seen that, honestly, knock on wood, in a Black community. It's a quote I had read, I had wrote it down. Let me see here. It says, it's about Warren Buffett. It says, someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. So we
Absolutely.
definitely need to start planting those trees. That's why my logo is a tree, because I always think about the future, leaving a legacy, the trees of life. We have to start getting that knowledge and that information so we can start spreading it to our community, because I'm pretty sure 90% of the people have no knowledge of any of this information. That's the
No,
crazy part about it.
and know what it is too.
In our
It's
community.
right. It's who they're talking to, right?
Hmm.
And if you're talking to people that's gonna tell you, man, don't pay that for life insurance. That's you, man. You ain't gonna die, right? We gonna listen, man. I'm never gonna die. Like I'm good, right? Or start talking to people that's doing something different, right? You go into a certain community, and then you see the nice cars, the nice house, the manicure lawn, etc., and so forth, right? So obviously, they're doing something set up from an earlier age. Now they can be where they want to be and be comfortable.
Right.
Or they might have came into, like I said earlier, you might have came into some inheritance,
Right.
and that
But what's
inheritance
the
came from
odds of that happening?
right. Because what happens
Yeah.
is that oftentimes you hear that I'm not leaving these kids nothing.
Yeah.
They're
That's so
so
sad.
ungrateful. They did, but the bottom line is because the DNA, right? Because somebody didn't do it to you, so you don't
Right.
have the 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 know-how how to do it for them. But my
Hmm.
concept is simple: if you know better, you do better. All I'm doing is informing the uninformed. That's it, right? So as long as you understand it, you get it. If you choose not to do it with us or do anything with us, that's totally understandable. If you
Right.
decide to go outside and do it with somebody else, all I say, just do it,
Right.
right?
Like
Like Nike,
Nike,
just do
just
it.
do it.
Right, like Nike, just do it. At least that way you've left that legacy or that inheritance for your kids and your grandkids, and then teach them what you did, so that way you can
Mhm.
break the cycle. Once you
Right.
break
So
the
my
cycle,
question,
go ahead.
really much to wrap it up, it's like, what will your retirement story be? For those who are listening in right now, or you're watching a replay, go ahead and hashtag replay afterwards. What is your retirement story going to be? So you got all of this information. He gave you the four legs that you need to keep that stool. You don't want it to be shaky. Okay. You want that stool to stand upright. He gave you the differences and the advantages, the disadvantages, how much you should put in your 401k match it. He said, don't go over 5%. Use the
Don't
rest
go
of
over
that.
the
You can,
match. Don't go
I
over
mean,
the
don't go over
match.
the match.
Yeah.
Or try not to put in more than that. You said more than five, right?
No, no. So if the match is 10, if they're giving you 10%, then you do the match. Whatever the
Okay, so
you want to
always
mirror
do the
it.
match.
Yeah,
Okay,
always
so
want to do
you
the
want to
match.
mirror
You
that.
don't want to leave you
So
don't want to leave
mirror
money on the
your
table.
right, mirror your 401k. Don't leave no money on
Yes.
the table, because if they give you free money, by all means, please take it. Diversifying your funds. That might look like an annuity. That might look like IUL. That may something with living benefits, because God forbid something can happen to anybody.
Right.
Look at my situation. I have lupus nephritis, which caused kidney failure. I can no longer, every time I apply for insurance, they say, you know what? You can't get insurance because you're uninsurable. But thank God I was smart enough to know at the age of 20 years old, I needed something,
Right.
or I can take the funds I have from my other retirement account or money that's in another place and get some type of annuity. So you need to make sure that your foundation is solid, not just for yourself, so you'll have some retirement money, because Social Security, it will be there. That's still a myth. They say around 2034, 35, like he stated before, there's going to be some major adjustments. The big, beautiful bill was just passed today with
Yes.
Donald Trump. So you
Yes.
might want to look into that too. That's going to affect especially a lot of lower socioeconomic people. So, what will your story be? Do you want it to be the same story and we're repeating generational curses? Or do you want to change your story? Do you want to change the narrative? Um, Mr. Kennedy, go ahead and let them know if they do want to change that, how they can reach out to you and get some type of consultation.
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach me at my cell phone, 757-897-3182. Or you can reach me at the retirement specialist, the retirement specialist, 67 at Gmail. So that's the retirement specialist, 67 at Gmail.
All right. And that's the retirement specialist at gmail.com.
Yes.
All right. And then, of course, if you want to set up some type of consultation with me, like I said, I'm licensed as well, but I am not the expert by far. You could definitely reach out to me. My website is joinkayla.com. My email is info@joinkayla.com. So you could definitely reach out to either one of us. And, there's no such thing as a stupid question. When you know better, you do better. Let's try to set some things up in order to make sure you're good. So it's not just about death. People think of life insurance or they think of retirement, they think about death. No, there's such things in place that can help you if you're still alive. Had I had a living benefit, I wouldn't have been without income all the times I was in a hospital, all the times I had surgeries, so on and so forth. So please definitely reach out so we'll be able to assist you to the best of our ability. Mr. Ken, do you have any other closing remarks?
Yeah, the closing remarks will just do it, right? So if you have the information and you do nothing about it, then it's on you, right? We're putting the ball in your court. You have the information, like she said. You could reach out to us, even if you wanted to have a conversation, even if you didn't want to do nothing, you just wanted to get some more insightful information. Then we're here to help you as much as we can. They say, all right, Social Security, right, is one of the things that is so complicated, but I tell everyone it's not. Once it's structured the right way and you know what you're doing, you don't have any issues at all. Um, they say if you can't stay motivated, stay consistent, right? So that's my time. Appreciate you having me here on live.
Oh,
If you
no,
guys have any
thank
questions,
you.
please. Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Thank you for reaching out, and I will see you guys soon next week. I don't know what the topic is, but if you have any
We'll figure it
suggestions,
out.
yeah, let me know, and I'll definitely make it happen. And thank
Absolutely.
you. Good night.
All right.